Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'd like to discuss with you one of my all-time favourite assault rifles, or battle rifle as some refer to it, and that is the Tokyo Marui Scar Heavy Recoil. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Scar. It's got one of those instantly recognisable, and some might even say iconic, silhouettes. And can be found in everything from Call of Duty to Fortnite these days, depending on what your poison is, obviously. So, before I go into too much information about this particular Tokyo Marui variant, I'd like to discuss the Scars in general with you, and give you guys a little bit of information regarding the history of the weapon and the reason for its development, just so that you guys have some prior knowledge of exactly what it is you're buying into if you were to purchase yourself either the Tokyo Marui or one of the many other variants of Scar you can get in the airsoft market today. So the MK17, which is the designation for the heavy version, chambered in 7.62. The MK16 was the Scar Light, which obviously uses a standard Stanang mag in 5.56. These guns were developed by F&N in response to a list of requirements laid out by the US Special Operations Command Unit, or SOCOM as they're more readily known. And much like the MK23, which we discussed in another video, links will be down below, the SCAR, or Special Operations Combat Assault Rifle, was developed to sort of unify the Special Operations assault rifles under one banner. So significantly they wanted to get rid of things like the M4A1, MK18 and what have you, MK14, and just unify everything under one banner that could do a little bit of everything. Arguably perhaps not as well or specialist in some regards, but would be a jack of all trades and hugely reliable doing it. So essentially what they wanted was, as I say, because they needed to replace the M4A1, you had to have something capable of 5.56, and the MK14 or the MK17 was designed to pack a much more significant punch and essentially be able to engage targets at a much longer range. Now, the caveat to that is that the MK17 isn't actually the apex predator in that respect. They produce another variant of the Scar, which is the MK20 SSR, or Sniper Support Rifle, which is essentially a MK17 with an elongated front end and a different stock and slightly shorter mag capacity. And that, to all intents and purposes, is a DMR rifle. Now, with regards to airsoft, this is something you can build a replica of using a MK17 as well. You will need a host of upgrades, and obviously to replace the UGG boot stock at the back and what have you. But I have seen it done on a very, very rare occasion, and it's something that looks absolutely awesome when it's done properly. Now, as I say, the Scars in general, we'll talk about them as Scars as opposed to the MK17 and the MK16. So the two weapons performed absolutely superbly during their testing phase, but unfortunately only the MK17 has seen adoption by the Special Forces. And the reason for that is that it was fundamentally a budgetary requirement. The Mark 16 wasn't seen as a significant enough upgrade to the current platforms such as the M4A1 and what have you. And as such, to save a bit of money, they scrapped the Mark 16 and built an adaptation so that the Mark 17 could run 5.56. So now the Mark 16 is actually only available on the civilian market, and probably not a big seller, I wouldn't have thought, as all of the Scars, regardless of designation, are hugely expensive weapons and seen as a bit of a luxury, I would say, in that respect. So that's a little bit of history on the real steel variants. So what do we get in this Tokyo Marui? Well, we get a largely polymer design. The upper is still polymer, but it feels nice. It almost feels a little bit metal in the fact that just the way it's painted, and it feels cold to the touch all the time. I don't know why that is. But as I say, we have the mock gas chamber at the top there. The sights on these are superb. I mean, obviously I'm running my own optic anyway, but you can quite happily run these things off of these iron sights and you won't be disappointed. They're a superb little addition. We have the monolithic upper top rail, extremely well manufactured. In terms of manufacturing, you cannot have a bad thing to say about this gun. It is a superb example. Everything from the way the wiring tucks in on the foldable stock and that kind of thing is just very, very well thought out and very, very well integrated. Now, one thing about the charging handles, much like the real Mark 17, this charging handle, because it is an EBB, will reciprocate under fire as well. So bear that in mind if you're the type of person to try and clamp further forward on the gun and that kind of thing. Not necessarily the greatest position there, but you will stop that reciprocating. Charging handle can be placed on either side, again like the real steel variant. We have complete ambidextrous controls. Everything is polymer, but has a significant click to it and a real positive feel. It's a nice feeling setup. As I say, the stock is superbly well manufactured. It houses the battery. Battery space is mildly limited. You are only going to want to run a 7.4 in it as well. Obviously, if you do go for upgrades, a lot of people tend to upgrade the springs and some of the internals and what have you. The hop is very good as standard. Certainly if you're going to look to build a DMR platform out of it, you'll want to upgrade the internals, and then you'll get things like Titan gates and what have you that will allow you to run much more powerful batteries. But out of the box, stick with your 7.4, protect the contacts, leave it alone would be my advice. In terms of out of the box performance, you're not going to be disappointed. This gun, I must admit, hugely surprised me on the first time out, being skirmished as well. I obviously had it chronoed and it was coming in around the 300 FPS mark, and I kind of was a little bit disappointed. I thought, oh god, I'm going to get outranged by a lot of standard M4s, but that is really not the case. The Marui magic is strong with this one. And yeah, it was a superb performer and has been. I mean, it's hugely reliable. It's a gun I highly, highly recommend to anyone. And everyone who has used it has been nothing but impressed with the gun. In terms of the recoil, It's not the strongest. I know I harp on about the strength of the recoil sometimes. It's stronger than the ASG Hera arms, which is a good thing. It's not as strong as the KWA Ronin, which is arguably my favourite recoil. It's got a good sound to this one though. It's got an almost metallic sound. So as it reciprocates, and I'll tell you what, I know I've got a battery in this. I'll dry fire it off just so you can hear the reciprocation and obviously see it. That's a good noise, and it's a very individual noise. It's something when you're firing it off, everyone on the airsoft field, or whether it's in CQB or whatever, is hugely identifiable with this gun. And certainly everyone knows what's coming around the corner when they hear it. That's a big plus point for me. I do like the noise it makes. What else have we got? As I say, there's not really much to go over. It's a superbly reliable gun. It's a lovely platform. I like the Scars in terms of their overall aesthetic. I know some people find them a little bit Marmite. But, one thing I also have is the Replica 40GL, which is, the designation says it all really. It's a 40mm grenade launcher, specifically designed for the Scar. Now, I will actually do a separate review video on this because this is a very nicely manufactured thing, and I think it deserves a bit of time on its own. Now, as I say, if you get one of these, you will not be disappointed, and it's a gun I highly recommend. That's been my review and talk through of the Tokyo Marui Scar 17 recoil system. And if you've enjoyed the video, a like and a subscribe is always welcome. And yeah, hopefully it's been of some help to you. Thank you very much for your time.